awesome.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast, powered by the Big Three Roll Up. I just want to thank all our fans and listeners. I really appreciate all support. We just got a quick bonus kind of instant reaction show. Before we start that, just going to give a quick shout out to our website and don'tgoouthere.com, and check us out on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We just joined TikTok, as Brian would call it, and we got a YouTube channel. Go subscribe to us there. We like to put up early content like this on there first. What are we talking about tonight, guys? We're talking about Fear Street Part 2, 1978. Super fun movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't make it to the first instant reaction, unfortunately. I'm not going to go into deep thoughts on it. I'll just say I really had no idea what these movies were about. Had no clue it was written by R.L. Stine. Never heard of this stuff, honestly. I was a Goosebumps guy, like Brian and Dustin touched on. I kind of just watched the first one just off of peer pressure, honestly, because not peer pressure, but you guys watched it, seemed to enjoy it, so I checked it out. I honestly liked the movie. It was fun, and I was looking forward to this one. I feel like this has been a kind of a good filler in for Stranger Things, taking 187 years to get season 4 out. But I really liked 1978 Fear Street Part 2. Brian, what'd you think? Do you like it?
Yeah, and not only that, I think it really made the first one better for me, and I had a lot of, if you listen to the first review, I had a lot of reservations, a lot of it. And this movie is not perfect by any means. And some points you have to kind of sit back and just enjoy it for being a movie. Some things are crazy, kind of like the first one I had some complaints about, but you know what? It's a really fun movie. I really enjoyed it. I don't think that I complained about it. Okay, I didn't complain about it. I was worried about it, suffering from the whole prequel issue because, but it doesn't suffer from it at all. Because, it hits you with, the ending, kind of gives you a little bit more on 1994, how it ties it together, like Dustin hoped it would. He was completely right in guessing how they were doing it. He tried to ease my concerns, but he was completely right. I have to say that. And, I know Dustin hates hearing he's right. So, hopefully he won't listen to the show or anything, but he was definitely right on this one.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. So again, I also missed the part 1 of this. I was on vacation. A lot of other big life things happened in between that time. So I am happy to be back in the chair. I'm happy to be back in front of the mic. Yeah, real quick. I'm not going to dive too deep into part 1. I missed that. That's my fault. But I do want to say I really enjoyed it. It reminded me of a lot of other. I enjoy slasher films. We all enjoy slasher films, and I listened to the episode and understood some of Brian's gripes. But there did come a point in that movie where I just was looking at the screen and made up my mind that I'm going to enjoy this for what it is. Yeah. This is a little silly, but it's not too silly. Right. Like where it's so bad it's good. It's still trying to do something, trying to take itself very seriously. And listen, one thing I'm going to say about this movie, same thing I'm going to say about part 1. Soundtrack is fantastic to both of these movies so far. Music that I love, the first one had Creep and Bush and Nirvana and everything it just had a lot of really good, Cypress Hill. Really, really solid soundtrack, and 78 is no different. So, yeah, I just wanted to say I really enjoyed part 1. Nico, you made a good point. These are kind of filler for a big season of movies coming up as far as horror goes. You've got Halloween on the horizon. I know there's a new Purge I just haven't got the chance to see. Scream in January. There's a lot of stuff coming out here. And the reason I decided I wanted to see this movie because they're horror films. They look like high production quality, and so Netflix got my attention. Like you guys, I didn't read these books, so I had no prior knowledge going in. I was also a Goosebumps guy, a big one at that. This had a Goosebumps / Are You Afraid of the Dark rated R kind of hint to it, and I really enjoyed it. Okay, that was part 1, a very 90s slasher movie without the meta, so I thought that was really fun. This was, I sent the text a couple days ago. This part 2 is basically a Friday the 13th film to me, or even Sleepaway Camp if you really want to go there with it. Although I would have put this on way before I would Sleepaway Camp, the first one. The second one's pretty fun. But anyway, I enjoyed this movie. I like this cast a lot. I think Sadie Sink is great. I like her in Stranger Things as well. And I think she does a really good job kind of, she's not our main character, but she's pretty dang close. And she's kind of the one I care about the most. And I think that, I think Ted Sutherland was really good as Nick Good because I could see him growing up to be Officer Good. Like, that makes a lot of sense to me. So I think that was really good casting there. And I like that it tied back to the first one. The connections were really neat to me. They weren't too far of a stretch. Obviously, there's some stuff in this movie where I'm like, okay, whatever, guys. But at the end of the day, almost a very Friday the 13th Sleepaway Camp, just a fun slasher film.
Well,
for what it's worth.
You brought up the basically, the Friday the 13th reference, which I kind of thought it was kind of a nice little nod to Halloween being 1978 and not like 1980, like when Friday the 13th came out. But, this to me was like, it's like an updated Friday the 13th. And I'll not only just that, but I think that it is, and this may be blasphemous for me to say, better than, and it may sound like a high number, but I think it's 98% at least of camp slashers, period. Because you don't even have, and it was kind of weird, I will say, kind of, when you see any of the camp settings, anything from the 70s or whatever, you're not used to seeing any of this stuff in 4K. And so, like, I was like, it was really cool to kind of see it updated and kind of see, like, okay, plus you get to see all the kills, which you never did in Friday the 13th. And to be fair, the budget for this was way bigger than obviously Friday the 13th. And it was really good. But you get to see something that you only got to see one time, unless I'm mistaken, one freaking time in 10 Jason movies, was the campers being at the camp. And besides part 6, there's not another one. And 6 is really low key, cut away, don't show kills. So they killed fucking kids in this movie. Spoiler alert.
Great.
But I mean, they kill kids in this movie. It's like they show it, which is kind of gruesome to say, but
brutally kill kids.
Yeah, it's like this is Friday the 13th on steroids almost, and that's kind of crazy and weird to say, to be honest.
So glad you said that, because just like the first one, I know I wasn't here. Both of these movies have really good kills. Even the cutaway kills don't bother me because they reward us with some other kills. Man, I know we're talking about part 2, but the dang butcher head kill from the first one is fantastic. I didn't think they were going to show it, and they showed it. That's freaking great. In this movie, you get you're right. You get really brutal murders of kids, and out of context, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, I know.
But you got my stance going all the way back to when we reviewed Halloween 2018. Yeah. Show it. If you're gonna put it in the movie, just show it, because at the end of the day, that adds something for me for whatever reason. Just because it's not so schlocky, the campers don't look okay. A lot of the Friday the 13th movies in Sleepaway Camp, they're 27, 28-year-olds playing 16, 17-year-olds. In this film, there's some of that, but there's some kids in this movie, some actual kids on screen deaths, and I can appreciate that they had the balls to go do that, and I think it was unexpected. I was not expecting these movies to be as gory as they were.
Yeah, absolutely. And not to piggyback too much off the first one, but that axe kill right after the bread slice kill to the guy in the head, very unexpected. I was not expecting. That was awesome. But like you mentioned, the kills in this movie and both movies were great. Hot take, I would watch this movie over the first 3 Fridays any day of the week. I think it's better, and I'm the Jason guy. Sorry, Dustin. Friday the 13th original is pretty terrible compared to this.
This movie has Team Sack, baby. Let's go. Team Sack.
That was a reference to The Strangers, not Jason.
No. Don't even try, bud. Don't even try.
Let's talk a few more pros that we liked. It's already been mentioned. Sadie Sink was great as Ziggy. I love the fact that she was in the movie the whole time as well. We got Maya Hawke, for the opening scene. Absolutely loved having Sadie Sink throughout the whole film, and I agree with you, Mike. I would say she is the star of this movie.
Yeah.
I think she did a great job. That's another thing I would say is better about this movie compared to the old, campy movies. Yeah, good acting in this movie, in these movies. I liked it. Brian, what's some pros you had for the movie besides Sadie, or in addition to?
Well, and I think I want to touch on the fact that, kind of I touched on it a little bit earlier, but what I was complaining about last time, being worried about, it suffering from the prequel issue, it doesn't, because you still, it's, the prequel issue being, oh, well, we know how it's going to end. We're not going to have any surprises, things like that. Well, you go in, and I won't spoil it. That's what we're trying to not do spoilers here. But you go in not knowing who the Nightwing killer ends up being. You kind of pick that up, obviously, about halfway through the movie or whatever. But, you're not sure about that going in. You're not sure about, which sister is, somebody dies from the first one. Like, they talk about it, but you don't know which one it is. So I think that's great. Plus, the character development, like, you care about these characters. At least I did. I cared about these characters more than any of the ones I did from the first one. I don't know if it's, and I don't know why. I guess maybe
that's fair.
Maybe we spent more time with them. Maybe they're just a little more likable. I mean, no offense to anybody in the first one, but it's not their fault how they're written. I loved that. I loved I'm not ripping off Friday the 13th too much, but I'm going to give the piano like cues. During the scary parts, that was almost Halloweenish too, obviously. So, I loved that. I loved all the references. I loved the Carrie references, the Exorcist references. The
Shining.
Yeah, Shining. I mean, there are a ton of them are in there.
I would say The Descent was referenced too.
Yeah, that's a good point. And they're not throwing in your face. It's not like crazy references where you're just like, oh, come on. Like,
having sucks cocks in hell written on the walls a little in your face, but other than that,
only because Dustin said it like 3 or 4 times during the review. That's the only reason it stuck in my head. But yeah, I want to just touch on the fact that this is, unless I'm mistaken, pretty damn groundbreaking, because I don't know of another time in history where it's like 3 horror movies were made back to back to back like this all together and released this quick. You basically have a trilogy, you have an overarching story already put together, and you have 3 films in front of you. Obviously, that's benefiting from having Netflix money, having Mike Settle money.
I wish.
Easily accessible too.
Exactly.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
But it's really cool. They've done a lot of really cool things with this little trilogy that, we are looking at some great movies coming out, and obviously possibility of being disappointed at a lot of them. To have this one just has a really great surprise, I think.
Yeah, something you touched on, Brian, was how we kind of like the characters better in this one. I tend to agree with you. There's a part of me that chalks that up to something I've already said like 4 times, and that is this feels kind of like a Friday the 13th movie, and we're all fans of the slasher genre, and they're campers, and there's some nostalgia there for all of us. I know you two are big time Jason people, and I know this isn't technically a Jason movie, and there's a lot of differences, and there's something I want to touch on that I actually think this set of movies does pretty well. But as far as why I think I like the characters more, they just feel like more familiar characters that we've seen on screen in horror movies. And that's not a knock on the first cast. I actually thought that cast was really, really tight-knit and really, really good, and I thought the acting was really well done, and nothing against them or anything. That felt very 90s, though. That felt very, and not necessarily like Scream, I know what you did last summer 90s, but more like, well, I guess it would be that, but this, obviously, 1994 came before those movies would have been out. But, it kind of felt like just a very 90s group of kids, almost like if you took a set of Boy Meets World or Saved by the Bell or something like that and put it in a horror movie. That's kind of what that cast felt like. This one kind of feels like something we've seen before, and it felt like comfort food, for lack of a better term. I think maybe that's why I enjoyed it. One pro I had, and you guys know me, I'm not big into supernatural, occult, witch things as far as in my movies. I like learning about that stuff, but something I think this set of movies is actually doing well, instead of what Halloween does a million times, what Friday the 13th has done, where they've gone back and inserted things that weren't there before, and now they're there, and there's this convoluted backstory. Something this set of movies has done, and I know it's a book first, so duh. But something I think this does is establish right up front. Yes, you're watching two slasher movies technically, but you're also watching someone control the strings. There's a witch, and I think she's omnipresent from the very first 5 minutes of the movie. And I think that, and I like that about this set of movies so far anyway. Now we could get to the third one and it ends up being like The Witch, which is a very strange film. I don't not like it. I just think it's very out there. But I think it's very interesting how from the very get-go, it's not neat, but it's at least together. It's not Michael Myers was in this cult, his whole family going back to ancient Samhain or whatever the fuck. This is what it is. Yeah. From the start. This is the witch. She's controlling the strings and blah blah blah, and on we go. And now we have this group of killers that are on the loose, and I kind of enjoy that, which I was kind of shocked at, because normally once I saw ritual ruins and satanic symbols and stuff, spoiler alert, but that normally be like, click, I'm turning that off. But for me, it worked in this movie.
I'll say I definitely like the characters in this movie more. I just feel like the writing and the acting, like the first one focused so much on the two girls' relationships, it kind of took me out of the mystery and the slasher aspect of it. It's like, come on, can we focus more about what's attacking them? And I just felt like Sadie and her potential mate or whatever, her potential crush, and her bully, I was engaged with that a lot more than I can't remember that Ben from It. You remember when we reviewed? He just reminded me too much of him. I feel like that was a little forced. He's got all the information on his wall, and he explains it like in no time. I feel like that was a little too on the head or something maybe. But
it's definitely
I like both movies, but
right.
Yeah. Well, and that does suffer.
But I haven't read the book.
Part,
what was that, Brian? I'm sorry.
I was going to say that this does suffer from being like basically the first chapter, and there's no books as far as I know that this is like the first one. This is like just a whole brand new story, so this isn't related to any books as far as I know. From what I've read, I mean, I maybe get 50,000 messages tomorrow saying how wrong I am, but as far as I know, from what I read, this is not based on any book. Just kind of, it's a whole brand new story. But it kind of being the first chapter, I understand, and like that's some problems that I had with it. But they're also trying to, I think, give you this information that you didn't really have to have in this one. So and plus they had to build up characters, whereas this one is like they're sisters, so they automatically have this bond, and you have this kind of relationship without you even having to worry really about building up a friendship between the two too. So I don't know, just devil's advocate there.
Yeah, just kind of looking a little bit ahead to the third one. I think this series of movies is kind of giving us three genres of horror in one series, which I think is pretty cool, man. I think you get I think the first one is I've repeated myself, but I think I finally settled on how I feel about it. It is a 90s slasher film. It's not screaming. Yeah, it's a whodunit type situation, and that's kind of what the bulk of what a lot of the 90s slashers ended up being. Scream and Ocho Last Summer, Valentine, all those movies kind of very just whodunit, which I think works because the prequel to that genre of slasher was the 80s slasher, which we get in this film. And it looks like in the third one we're going to get a little bit more of an art house style, a more of a A24, for lack of a better term, and I think that could be interesting, especially because they built the story up with these two completely different films. And just looking at the preview, the third one looks very, very different. But one thing I want to say is normally I think the first one's ending went on a little too long. Like I think there was a little too much inside the store. and all that stuff. I didn't feel that way with this one. I thought the last, final 8 minutes of the chase scene or whatever you call that, I think was really, really good. The camera work was good, and that's something else I want to say. I say it a lot, I know, but cinematography in this movie is good. This does not feel like a Netflix movie. This feels like I went down, I sat and watched it in the theater to me, and I think it's really, really good, and I think the music is good, as I've already said. But the camera work, as far as direction goes, I think is great.
All right. Y'all got any more pros for? Because I do have a con that I want to just touch on real quick. Any more pros?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I will say that I did like the second movie a lot, and I liked it better than the first one, I would say. However, I did kind of feel like the first 25 to 30 minutes of this one kind of drug a little bit. But once it picks up, I'm all in. But I kind of felt like it started off a little slow. And these movies are not short, by the way.
Right.
Anyone listening, they're both over an hour 45 minutes long. Right. But I will say that I thought like the first 30 or so minutes drug, and it did bother me. It has the typical slasher tropes. You hit the slasher one time, he falls down, you drop your weapon, and you hug your sister or something like that. I was like, come on, be smarter. But I know what they're doing.
Say there's a part of me that kind of likes that it follows the tropes. Like I'm very picky, because when it works, and when it doesn't, like in some of the later Chucky movies where it's just the tropes because they can't do anything else. Like I don't like that. But in this movie, I think they know these are tropes. Fans watching these movies know they're tropes, and one thing I will say, this is a set of movies I think that if you're just a casual horror fan, you can get into. And I think that's why the tropes are there. I really think if I sat down with just my sister or something who doesn't really like horror movies that much and said, hey, watch this, I want you to see this, she would be into both of these movies. I really do think so. So they did a good job with that.
Yeah, these are movies that you would 100% go in middle school or right in high school, pop, like, I'm going to go rent these movies and pop them in at a sleepover, and everybody stay up watching them. You get to see gore and blood and cussing and everything you need to see without this super deep. I completely agree. As far as cons go, I don't really feel like, I complained in the first one about it dragging some. I really do feel like the first one did drag some in places. I don't feel like that this one did. I had my biggest nitpicks were stuff that I'm going to save probably for when we do the in-depth review, which we are going to do. We've all kind of talked about that today, and we definitely all want to do that. We're going to let these simmer a little bit before we hit them up. But without even saying anything, there's a character that gets stabbed at the end of the first one that is suddenly just perfectly fine at the beginning of this one, just walking around having no problem. Like, that's the kind of thing where I'm just like, come on. Like, well, I thought she got stabbed in the gut earlier. Like, what the hell happened? And there's a lot of little nitpicks like that, and that's what I was talking about earlier, about you having to just sit back and go, okay, I know what I'm watching. Like, I need to quit just nitpicking it apart, sit back and just enjoy it, enjoy the cheese, in some of the places. But man, I really enjoyed this one a lot, and it made the first one better for me.
I agree. I don't have a ton of cons that wouldn't be involved with a scene by scene.
Yeah.
Like, my cons would also come in a scene by scene breakdown. Some of the dialogue is not awesome. Some of there's not, most of the acting is good. There's some acting that's not so good. One character in particular that I think is really bad, that gets too much screen time. I'll save it though, because I don't want to do that in an instant reaction show. But I think that acting is pretty bad. But there are little nitpicks here and there. This is a really digestible movie, a quick hitter. Some of the horror movies that we get in the big screen now, and there's nothing wrong with this, they take a lot of time to kind of digest and figure out, and what did I just watch? And I like those. But this one doesn't have that. We know what we just saw, and it was a lot of fun. And it was carnage candy, for lack of a better term. I know a lot of people use that, but it was carnage candy. The first one was carnage candy, which, again, I wasn't expecting, because I know a lot of people, even Brian kind of said, hey, these are a little bit marketed towards teens. And that's true, especially the first one. But I do think, man, it made me kind of like it more because I got a little bit of nostalgia, which I know I didn't grow up on horror, but like when you're going through that, oh, I love horror now phase, you're digesting all these teen slasher films from the 80s and 90s. It's kind of made me feel like I was watching one of those. So I think it was really good. The cons come in the dialogue for sure. And one character that I just think I'm not an actor. I hate to critique acting. I don't normally do it if I can, unless you're Quentin Tarantino and From Dusk Till Dawn, which his acting is terrible. But, there's one character, God bless her. I'm sure she's great in other things, but she's not good in this film at all. And I think Nico knows exactly who I'm talking about.
I was about to say, is it this? I'm just going to piggyback real quick off of something Brian said. Is it the same girl who has the Descent reference, breaks her leg, but can just magically walk on it after you push the bone back inside?
But also, if we're looking for a con, that's a con I can give you now. Spoiler alert: if you haven't seen this movie, you probably shouldn't be watching this anyway. You should watch the movie first, then see our reaction. But just that's a con I have. Also, I'll just say
it's not their fault that Nico put spoiler free on the tag here before.
Oh no, not. Hey, I'm sorry. That's not that big of a spoiler, but that guy that pissed me off.
I understand.
It's a pretty big spoiler there, brother. You might want to hashtag that spoilers.
I'll put minor spoilers in there, but
very minor.
Very minor.
But that girl had her bone hanging out of her leg and walked on it at the end. No problem.
That character is whatever to me. She gets a little too much screen time, in my opinion, as well, Alice. But the acting that bothered me the most was the character of Sheila. Why are you in this film? Why are you in this film? What are you doing in this movie? This doesn't make any sense to me. You could have taken her character out, and nothing about that movie changes for me. I'm sorry. She got a bunch of cockroaches dumped on her. Congratulations. That's all I'm saying.
Spoiler, just kidding. Y'all got any more thoughts? I think it's been a pretty good instant reaction.
Absolutely. Hey, I would highly recommend going to watch this movie. Start from the first one if you haven't seen it. If you made it through now, you know some spoilers, so you kind of know what to expect. Go watch this movie. And if you've already watched it, I would say, if you're bored and got nothing else to do, go watch it again, because I definitely think there's stuff we missed. I'll be completely upfront. I only watched this movie one time in preparation for this. That's why it's called an instant reaction. And so I didn't want to dissect every little thing until we actually deep dive this movie. Same with the first one. I just wasn't on for it. And so I really enjoyed both of these. Go watch both. I'm really looking forward to the third one, which I know we have something we could talk about with the third one at the end of this. And at the end of this little instant reaction.
See, I'm a little bit worried, but I said this last week. I'm worried that this is going to be a really big letdown, the third one, because it's like my least favorite thing that I want to see. This whole 1600s witchcraft type thing. Like I enjoyed obviously the 90s. I love the 90s. Love the slashers. Love the camp Friday the 13th setting in this one. Like I'm a little bit worried that I'm going to be a little bit let down just by what we're going to here, but I am looking forward to them tying up the future, which was in '94 or whatever, with the next one too. So I am looking forward to the whole overarching story being tied up.
Yeah, me too.
I can't wait till we pick the witch mic for Brian to watch that.
I'll tell you what, I don't think he'll like it, but I think he may like certain things, because there's a scene in that movie. Well, there's a death in that movie that I know he will love. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, and we talked about the kills, but let me just say, like, this is not like a gore porn at all movie. Like, it's not like a, I don't know, a Hostel or a Centipede 2 or whatever, where it's like just ridiculous gore that makes you like, oh, gross. It's not. It's just like, I guess because it's part of a slasher, whole different.
Out of nowhere.
Like, whoa, that's awesome. Like, I don't know. It's different type. Even though it is pretty gory, but none of it makes you like cringe like some of those movies.
Third, and Nico, before you go, want to throw a question to both of you since we only have a few minutes left here. We talked about this numerous times. We kind of hinted it's the slash. We bounced around. Is the slasher dead? Can it be done anymore? And I know Halloween 2018 came out, but that's a very established franchise that you could probably do forever if you put Halloween on the movie poster. Do you think something like this has the chance to kind of, and I know Scream's coming out, but again, that's piggybacking off of 2018 Halloween. Do you think this has the chance to kind of reignite some new slashers, some new creative and that these two kind of play the greatest hits, and I understand that, but I think what you could take from this is these movies could still thrive and survive off a fresh spin, a bigger budget, more things to do, better writing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So do you think this series could kind of rejuvenate slashers in a way?
Do you want to go ahead?
It's a lot to digest. I think I agree with you. I'm going to say I think I'm leaning towards no, honestly. I think, like you said, this is a greatest hits kind of thing. I would say movies like, let's say Terrifier 2, just for example, is way different than the first one. It's not just a grindhouse, brutal movie, and it's actually got a good story. Or let's say the new reboot of Jeepers Creepers or something. We need a new slasher to fall in love with to reestablish the slasher. I mean, we all love Michael Myers, but he came back out in 1978. We love, everybody loves Scream. That came out in 1996. That's all established stuff, like you just said, Mike. For us, for something new, I think we need an Art the Clown to take over. I don't think Jeepers Creepers can do it, but I hope we do get a good Jeepers Creepers reboot of the franchise. So I don't know. We need something new though. Just making another Jason movie, I don't think that would revitalize its franchise. I don't know about the whole. It doesn't do much for me. Other stuff like that. I don't think that's Brian, what do you think?
I think, I think that, this does kind of play the greatest hits, but it also doesn't completely you're in the same, Sleepaway Camp was great, but it was in the same, genre as Friday the 13th. You had so many there weren't very unique movies even back then. Nightmare on Elm Street was so great because it was unique. It was something different. But then Hellraiser came along. You had a whole bunch of stuff that was kind of in the same genre. So I think it's really hard to do anything new and not have some sort of relation to it. I think that these do a fantastic job at that. Everybody may think I'm crazy, but and you brought it up. I love the character of Jason. Since this is 78, I'll talk about it. I love the character of Jason. I don't really think that any of his movies are great and really good. And I think he suffers from I love the character, but I think he's in not a very great handled franchise or whatever. I would rather watch this, which is a ripoff of Jason, but done right, but done new, but done with better acting, but done better. And I think it's a better movie than any of the Friday the 13th movies. I think this done better. So just that in general, saying, okay, I would rather watch this than, if you took the guy with the sack head out and put Jason in it, it would be
a heck of a Friday the 13th movie. Yeah.
I mean, it's you had a Friday the 13th movie, but it wasn't. So, I mean, I think there's absolutely a way to do it. This is, almost there. And shit, it's now, it's on Netflix. It's not anything. I think only reason I disagree with Nico about Art the Clown and Terrifier is just because I think that it's too over the top. It's too. I think it's too cringy. Oh my god, what am I watching? But that's the point. Right. That's something they're going for. They're not
that's
going.
That's what I'm saying. If you give it a good story too, not just the brutal killing or nothing.
Right.
But I don't think Art can do it, but. He has the potential as a slasher.
I would like to see the rest of these killers get their own movie like these three are getting. We're getting the original witch in part 3. We've got Skullface or whatever you want to call, which is not much different than Ghostface. And then you've got Sackhead Tommy over here. which is basically Jason Voorhees. But I kind of like those subtle nods. I'd like to see some of these other characters that they introduce, as far, Ruby Lane and stuff like that. I'd like to see them get and I don't know if we're going to, but man, I hope we do.
I bet you we do. These things have been a big hit. I bet you we do.
Throw another 3 parts at us. Let's go, baby.
Yeah, I think.
One thing I'll say, Mike, because I think that was a great question you asked. I think it's obvious that the fans are hungry for something like this, though.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've had so many films like the Insidiouses, the Conjurings. I think that's a big reason why even like Ari Aster's movies do so well, is because they're just something different. We want, and most horror fans love the old slashers. I mean, I think we're all hungry for it. That's why 2018 did so well, and Halloween Kills is so hyped up. The fans they're hungry for it, and Hollywood doesn't fulfill our appetite for it. Right. They want to remake Jaws, a movie that does not need to be remade. They want to remake The Exorcist, a movie that doesn't need to be remade. Right. But
if they do, like, Halloween is a not. I mean, it's a diamond in the rough. I mean, like, Friday the 13th 09 was kind of a diamond in the rough and an exception to the rule. But they, like, even when they do take the characters and they do get the helms and they do get the realms, they're like, well, let's do something different. And, because this has all been done in the franchise before. But that's what the people want. People want to see at least not the same regurgitated stuff, but at least, like, change it up a little. Do what this did. This did enough to change it up, but yet it was what everybody wanted, and everybody is just raving about this, I think.
Right. I agree. I've seen pretty much nothing but positive reviews about this, which is why I'm really looking forward to Friday when we get to kind of talk about the third one.
Absolutely. I think we'll just go ahead and close it out now. Like Brian says in a lot of his ratings and reviews at the end of our episodes, he rates his movies a lot on enjoyment. These movies are both, whether you think they're masterpieces, great writing, et cetera, these movies are fun. They're very fun, and you'll have a good time watching them. Right. You can make you a bag of popcorn and a drink and just enjoy both of them, which is always nice.
And something I always say about slashers, which is why I love them, is are these two movies Godfather Part 2? No. Are they fun as hell? Yes. And I think both things can exist, and you can love both the exact same and for different reasons. And I completely agree. Make some popcorn, grab a drink, whether that's alcoholic or non-alcoholic, and enjoy yourself. It's really, really fun.
I will say, when you watch the second one, you might want to hide your kids' eyes in a couple scenes.
Yeah. Well, neither one of these movies are for the kids.
Well, even if it's like a 10 or 11-year-old, you better hide their eyes in a couple scenes in the second one.
Nah. Gotta learn someday. All right, we'll see you next time.
Brian, any more final thoughts before we close out?
No, I don't think so. I think I've pretty much, I enjoy it. Go watch it if you haven't already. Hopefully you have.
Absolutely. And like we have all said, we're definitely going to break these movies down scene by scene in depth. Sorry if we didn't have all of our facts. We watched it once and we hit bullet points, but we'll definitely be reviewing these movies in depth, front to back soon.
I'm picking one for sure. This one in particular. Can't wait.
You know what? And fans, if you want a full in-depth review, leave us some comments. If we get enough, we might be persuaded to do it.
Do it quicker. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel pretty good about this. Y'all feel good?
I'm good, brother.
We said it was going to be like 15, 20 minutes, but yet again, it was 40 minutes.
I might have rambled. What do you do?
No,
I've been gone for 2 weeks. I got engaged. I've been gone for 2 weeks. What do you want me to do?
Absolutely. Congratulations to Mike, him and Catherine getting engaged. That's awesome. And happy birthday to Brian. His birthday.
Happy birthday, Brian.
Hey.
How old are you now? 56?
Wow. Thanks, guys. Got to go. Have a good one. I'd like to announce my resignation from the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Pump the brake. Brian ain't quitting. He loves this too much. Hey, fans, we just want to thank you one more time. We appreciate it. You've shown us a lot of love, and it means the world to us. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Follow us, all that good stuff. Check out our website. Follow us on the TikTok. Patty whack, all that good stuff. And we thank you for your continued support. And like we said, if you want an even quicker review on these, persuade us, and we might do them for you. Y'all have a good one.